Yo, we are back. We had to go through a little bit of technical difficulties, but we've made it out. How you feel?
McBride having technical challenges today, man. Just brutal, dude. I don't know what went on, man. Neither of my computers wanted to give me audio this morning, man.
Dude,
the computers woke up and chose violence today, man. It was brutal, dude. Brutal.
Remember when we first started the show? I had a bad what are those
bad
called?
Dongle, dude. A bad dongle messed us up for like 3 weeks. Ruined like 5 shows, bro.
It's absolutely terrible. Well, today we're running up against, looks like Trevor and them are doing
yeah, dude. Of course, we're the worst timer of shows, bro.
That's okay.
Awesome. I don't care. I can talk to you, man, so it's all good.
You know, there's a never-ending supply of Twitter Spaces that are happening. Our Tuesday shows people like because we get to bring on different types of guests. Thursday, you know, we just get to shoot the shit, have some fun, and talk about any topic. So if anyone wants to come up, Shizzy, if you want to come up, or Willie, if you want to come up, happy to discuss, and we'll talk about all the different kind of topics that have been happening.
You know, it's funny because, like, dude, you realize how small. I mean, it's amazing to me, and I guess we'll probably get into this a little bit later with the friend tech thing. Is that they say they have 100,000 users. I can't even imagine how they have 100,000 users, because there are probably how many people in crypto right now, dude? I mean,
yeah,
there are probably 100,000 people in crypto, like maybe. You know, it seems like insane, and we obviously in the NFT space. Like all 100 of us that are left, you know, it's just there aren't many of us, you know.
It is actually starting to extend outside of crypto. There's a bunch of OnlyFans girls or chicks are starting to get on there.
No way.
Yeah, so a good account to follow is actually Ansem, if you know who that is. I think goes by like Black Noise or something. He's like he's been around for a while. He covers it pretty well in terms of like the cultural aspect of friend tech and the different types of people who are getting into it. And what they're doing, like the big trading play that I've seen is you just buy up e-girls right as they sign up, and it goes from like 0.01 ETH to like 0.8 ETH, and these people are making just absolute bags, dude.
Wait, so is this meaning that I'm gonna get like a one-time payment to have access to their OnlyFans? Is that the sales pitch?
So it's interesting because there's different strategies to friend tech. It started out originally as an alpha channel, which is always what happens in crypto, right? The whole paid group model has been going on for literally decades now at this point. When I first got into crypto in 2016, it was actually a Telegram. It was, hey, buy my, but it was a trading group at the time. It was, hey, join my trading group. I even considered doing a trading group. And then in around NFTs, then all of a sudden, instead of trading group, it became the alpha groups, right? Remember those? Right. The NFT cabal, all the people, right? Farouk and all of them supposedly in this cabal chat, pumping and dumping on people. Who knows if it was actually true or not? I'm sure parts of that is. And now it's, hey, join my friend tech group, which is just the token. It's like a token gated Telegram. I got an invite code, man, if you want it. I think really what's happening too there is that it's backed by Paradigm, and there's going to be an airdrop from the token. And I think if you look throughout the history, regardless of your opinion of Paradigm, throughout their history, everything that they back, dude, the tokens pump pretty hard. So, right, they backed Blur. There was like a few other ones. Oh, Art Gobblers pumped for a little while, and you know
that was them too.
They have a history of just everything they back is the tokens tend to pump a lot. So now they just need more. It needs more creator tools. It's definitely being DeFi'd out already. People are taking the assets and wrapping them to ERC20s and staking them and putting them in LP pools. You can now borrow against your friend shares. It's SocialFi, right?
It's kind of ruin everything, bro.
I find it interesting. We talked about social tokens before, right? How the social token experiments have been going on since 2014, I guess, since Counterparty. And it began with Let's Talk Bitcoin, where they began tokenizing the podcast and kind of like what it actually is and what's going on here. I know you did. You actually did you put out a post recently, a thread about the history of social tokens.
Yeah, very brief history. I just threw a couple in there that people might not have known about.
Tell me though, what's your
Well,
opinion?
I think the main takeaway from that was the most successful were actually a platform where people could create and then had rewards go back to them based on those creation. And I think that's what Tokenly eventually became, was this platform where you could put in, you could put out a blog post, for example, and the traction that blog post got at the end of each week, they would calculate, the most popular kind of posts or podcasts or whatever on the platform, and those would get the most of the tokens. So kind of like, I don't know, Rarible did with their Rary token. Like each week, whoever was the biggest users of the platform got the most kind of allocation of the token each week, and that's what Tokenly did. And of course, it got gamified, and people gamify everything. But in general, it led to, relatively decent quality content being pushed out. And people learned, wait, you couldn't completely game it, because if you pushed out, all this content one week, well, how are you going to get content out next week? Right. It's like, so creators, like, as far as what Adam has told me in the past, creators did like learn how to, create on the platform and, to maximize their rewards. But, kind of all what we're going through on X right now. It's like, you got to figure out this new paradigm of what the algorithm is going to like, what people on the platform are going to like. And, if you can figure that out, I think, a platform can certainly be successful. Whether or not, I don't know if we've ever seen successful kind of individual social tokens happen. Not to say it can't happen, but I don't think we've ever seen kind of one that's been done successfully for a long period of time. But platforms, certainly we have. I mean, Tokenly, Adam sold Tokenly. Like, it was actually successful.
Hey, made it back. That was back in 20. What did he sell? 2015 or 16 or something
Yeah,
like that.
17 actually. Yeah,
CoinDesk. I think he sold. Did he sell to CoinDesk? I think, or
I
was
can't
that something
remember.
else?
I can't remember. I think it might have eventually gone over to CoinDesk, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how it started on FriendTech. It started out as shares, and now it's keys. They changed the name, right? Obviously, it's mimics security-like features.
Their lawyer was like, "Bro, what are you doing? Change the name." Yeah, that's just like super obvious. I'm stunned that they originally called it shares. It's just a faux pas there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now at this point, right? Is it the bonding curve that makes it security-like? Is it? I know that's generally a big no-no, right? Because then you get an expectation of profits, the Ponzi systems that kind of come into play.
I mean, certainly we saw, gosh, I forget the Twitter handle now, but they already promised that they're going to push their rewards, their Twitter rewards, to the holders each week. I mean, just be that, I mean, it instantly becomes the security if they're doing that. And I'm all for people pushing the envelope. And I think we should maybe, a powerful player who got this into some court and was willing to fight it. But for the average person like you and me, I'd love to do it. It'd be fun. Like, it'd be a great experiment, right? Like, Jake's guest list, if your total revenue on X got pushed to your holders, fantastic. But I'm pretty sure Jake doesn't want to, be in court and fight that battle, right?
Well, there's definitely a lack of creator tools on the platform. Can't even post pictures in the chat yet. So what most users are resorting to is, again, the reward or shared rewards. I don't know if you know this, but if you buy or sell, there's a 10% fee on each side, and 5% of that fee goes back to the person of the social token.
Yeah.
The creator. And so there's some people like Banks. Do you know who FaZe Banks is? Who's the gaming guy who did the FaZe Clan? He created his friend tech account, and within, I think it was 24 hours, he made 50K in ETH just off of the royalties. And he basically came out and said that he wants to try to get as many gaming people into this. Maybe it's just the money talking, where you sign up for something and you get paid 50K instantly because people are just botting up your shares.
I mean, you wonder too, and not to say he did this or anybody did this, but certainly like people are buying their own shares, right?
Mhm.
Because for a 5% VIG or 5% payment, I can raise the price of my shares, create a FOMO ramp, and then people come in and do it, on top and buy my stuff on top, right? So there's all sorts of manipulation that can happen here. I mean, I think there's been enough put out there that if you don't have your head on a swivel and you get wrecked here, that's completely on you, because the majority of these things are going to be completely worthless. But do I think there's something potentially there? Yeah, absolutely. What it is, though, is this the end product? I can't imagine that this is the one, but
Progressive web
could
apps.
be wrong, bro. And 100,000 people, I was like 100,000, and I was like, oh, that's just wallets, but it's not wallets, right? Because you have to tie your Twitter to it, right?
Mhm.
So it's legit 100,000 people, or 50,000 people and 50,000 bots. I mean, I guess you could bot up do fake Twitter accounts.
There's tons. I mean, if you look up Ansem, who's one of the top share, or I guess top creators on the platform, there's at least 30 or 40 fake accounts of him.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is the Explorer feed is pretty bad. Not gonna lie, it's pretty bad. There's no way to really search things. And so what people will do is they'll create a fake Ansem account, and so then when it pops up in the Explorer, because it's just like a recent feed, it's chronological.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh my god, his shares are free,
cheap.
super cheap, and then you go buy it, and you're like, oh crap, this is a fake account.
So you're saying possibly out of that 100K, it is maybe 20K real accounts and 80K fakes.
I would say it's definitely more than half real for sure.
Okay.
But what perspective though? I don't know. I mean, like I said, from what I was seeing, I've been following Ansem. He's been providing the best like cultural context to it. He's been seeing a lot of OnlyFans chicks and e-girls have really been popping in. We saw who's that? There was Grayson Allen, who plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. Created an account and said he was super interested in it and wanted to share it to all his teammates. And then you have FaZe Banks from gaming. So it is really actually bringing in new community members, or should I say future bag holders, to crypto. And I think that's the whole point, right? Is in a bear market, the first app or the first D app to bring in, or platform to bring in new users, is going to be the one that has success, because that's what we need. We need new capital instead of the same money just being sloshed around consistently between the blur farmers and and all the NFT degens. GM Dogfather, you back?
Hey, GM.
Are you back now?
You still at the beach chilling?
I'm still at the beach chilling in the beach house, because it was like the weather was not ideal in the afternoon, so we came back a bit earlier so I could tune in. Nice. So GM. So it's pretty awesome to see what the friend tech people are doing. So basically, I started this friends protocol basically at the same time, and they're still a bit ahead of.
Perfect timing, bro.
I was like, what the heck is going on these friends stuff?
How crazy is that? Like literally, I think you launched yours in like the next day. I think it might have launched.
Yeah. So let me see. I pulled it up here on the video stream. August 7th is when you posted .friends. And I think this is actually around this. Yeah, it's probably around the same exact time.
Yeah, I mean, I deployed, and also the devs deployed theirs a bit earlier than we were posting about that, because we were like, tweaking around with the platform. So I think we were even a bit earlier, but just very much not public. So it was, I mean, really much the same time. So it's fucking awesome to see what's going on there, like all the craziness. But I have the good feeling that I think we will be around on Bitcoin with our protocol once the friend tech stuff is gone. But that's just feeling.
But you won't get as many eyeballs because there's not really any money to be made at it, right? I mean, this is the catch-22 we have in the entire crypto industry. It's like, well, do you want something cool and useful, or do you want something where you can potentially make money? And the vast majority of the world wants to just make money, right?
Dude, give us an update. How's the .friends protocol been going so far?
Actually, why don't you give a brief intro of what it is too, if you want to layer that in.
So I think we scheduled that for next week, but just, it's a quick overview, a 1 minute, version. So basically what we do is just created a protocol, just pimping up the BRC20 idea, just having a new address field where you can add your friends' addresses. So you can basically form a network based on Bitcoin using ordinals. So this gives your friends some credibility, and we plan to do something like a reputational score based on that can be used for all kinds of things like DeFi on Bitcoin. Yesterday, I talked to someone on Twitter, and she was giving me the idea like, okay, Web3 employers may look at the friend score as some reputation type of information if they employ new people. And I think there are like hundreds of these types of use cases for that. So I'm pretty confident that this will be around in a few years, and we are building very, very slowly at the moment, just getting rid of the rough edges, and on the back end. And guys, there's so many like things you need to take care of that all the corner cases people will play around. So we are at around 1,500 friends IDs. And again, some people have different wallets, maybe, divide that by 2 or 3. Then we may have a few hundred people who are already in the private beta, including Jake, Torsio, a few really cool people from the Bitcoin ordinal kind of like hardcore community. Building on that, so hopefully in September we can get out in public, or maybe October. We are not in a hurry. And I think next week I have a bunch of spaces and become more active and onboard more people. Pretty excited, I have to say. It's so cool to be the data analyst for other people's projects, but doing your own project, that's like Champions League stuff, really priceless. It's so cool.
Yeah, once you launch your own project, you realize first the when crowd tends to pop up. And then you have to have the educational piece. I've pulled up here on the video stream kind of your tutorial, which makes it really simple. The difference here between FriendTech is that .friends on ordinals is actually an SBT, non-transferable. So that's, I think, that where you come in and say the reputational score is a better example or parallel to the protocol than the speculation that exists within FriendTech, because you can't really speculate here. So, and if you go through, kind of what Vitalik talks about with SBTs, he put that paper, I think, like a year or two ago.
Yep.
One of the main factors in that, I guess, white paper is a credit system using SBTs and social score. I like to call it a guest list, but I think we all have a different type of viewpoint for it. So congrats to that, man. And we'll cover it. We're going to cover it next week as well. I do want to move over to a little bit of the ordinals. I don't know, Adam, if you saw it, I had posted this chart the other day, right? Because ordinals are dead. I got interviewed by Decrypt about ordinals being dead. And so I went and started looking through kind of some of the history of what was going, some comparisons between ETH and NFT market. And so this is on August 20th. I looked at all of the ETH NFT markets, or at least the top 5, Blur or 6. Blur, OKX, Uniswap, OpenSea, LooksRare, and X2Y2. And man, the unique active wallets is much worse than I actually thought it was. I'm not gonna lie. X2Y2 on this day, October or August 20th, had 94 active people in the last
24 hours. That means 0, dude, right? I mean, it's
94.
Like 0.
LooksRare was doing better at 100% more, or 2x at 197 active people. You go up the chart. Uniswap had 1,600. Blur has 3,000, and OpenSea has 9,200. And then you have OKX has 2,400. And OKX's stats, I tend to trying to look over because it's not completely auditable. They tend to inflate their numbers a little bit, especially in the ordinal space. But so you're saying there's about 15,000 active people on this day, and ordinals are dead. And so I went over to check about how dead they actually were. And these numbers are pretty bad, but the protocol has only been up for 8 months now at this point. And the top marketplace, Magic Eden, had 456 active users in 24 hours. OKX had 341. Unisat had 246, and Ordinals Wallet had 292. So it comes out to about 1,500 active users. And so within 8 months, Ordinals is about 10%, or has about 10% of the activity that the ETH NFT markets have, which I thought was actually pretty good comparative to like Bitcoin's already a hurdle to overcome. And ETH is very simple. And also there's just so much more functionality on these different types of marketplaces. I thought it was actually not bad. That to me does not show signs of death.
It's not dead. I mean, the thing is, it's like, we know Bitcoin's not going anywhere. We know NFTs aren't going anywhere. But again, it gets back to this thing where, I mean, I think 10,000 or 10K from, punks and stuff like that is it's kind of right on, because I think there are probably about 10K of us in the world, right? And like, it's the same ones of us, like, make no mistake, it's the same ones of us who are trading ordinals as it is who are trading ETH NFTs. And that amount you saw on OpenSea, which is whatever, 9,000 wallets, well, chop that in half. It's probably like 4,500 like real wallets, people using a couple different wallets. I mean, I just think we all have to be realistic with what this is, which is we are in significant early days. Like, the world is not here at all. They're not here. And it's the same 10K of us kind of going back and forth and bitching about our bags and this and that. And I think it's appropriate to take a longer term view and just like look at it as what it is. We rode an incredible first wave that had a massive amount of funding because people are crypto rich, period, full stop. People are literally have hundreds, millions of dollars in ETH, and that liquidity traded NFTs and grew the ecosystem, which is great. We're hoping that'll happen on Bitcoin to some degree, but I don't think it will, because I think the huge Bitcoin whales are they hodl Bitcoin. So it's a different scenario. But to think that the infrastructure that ordinals, facilitate, which at the simple level is NFTs, but obviously it's much more than that, that facilitation is not going to lead to cool things being built on Bitcoin. I just think it's stunning that somebody would think that. So yeah, I'm definitely not in that camp. I think ordinals are important and cool and will be a part of the entire space going forward. But we need things like, funny enough, friend tech to get new people interested. And if it's the e-girls or, I don't even know, I have no idea what's next, but we see that something where people say, oh, wait a minute, I'm a creator and I create, I don't know, not safe for work content. And maybe I can't make money through PayPal because they won't allow me to do it, but I can make money here. Like, those use cases, crypto's ready for those use cases. It's just a matter of finding the niche or the market for it.
Adam, we know you watch NPCs on TikTok. So we know you're
I'm trying to create an NPC like branding mega. I'm all in on the NPCs, man. I'm an NPC guy.
So I pulled up here, Bitcoin ordinals trading is down bad, but just how bad is it? This was written yesterday by Pedro over at Decrypt, combating what was an article purported by DAP Radar, which said that the activity had fell. I think it was like 97% is what they had quoted at. And Leonidas and Tio and myself and some others had shown our perspective of why this information is wrong.
Yep.
And DAP Radar held on. They said, yeah, fuck you guys. This is right. We're holding down. And then Leo and Trevor and even Crypto Slam, I forget what's the guy's name that runs Crypto Slam, also came in with showing that, yeah, DAP Radar, you guys are way off.
Yeah.
And so they're saying that the drop is actually 67 and 69% and not this 97 or 97, 92% figure that they're posting, which is, still down horrific, but not nearly as 97 is like, bro, everyone is gone. It is over at that point, right? You're likely not coming back. Dogfather was actually interviewed in this as well. The most obvious error of the reporting was comparing full months to August 15 days, right? That's such a simple kind of idea. They quoted me wrong. It's supposed to say, so I'll say what it was supposed to say. They included BRC20 transaction volume data in some areas, but the volume is down, but there are tens of thousands of inscriptions per day, right? The activity of ordinals, the majority of it's actually inscribing your data. Like that's the whole point. Yep. The secondary market is not, I would say, it's a reflection of activity, but it's not the entire perspective. People on ordinals usually, I mean, there are flippers, but that's not what most people on ordinals are doing. They're trying to create different types of products, and they're trying to put some type of data in Bitcoin so that it can stay there forever. So it seems like this kind of debate's probably going to continually go on forever. You have
if you look too at the amount of transactions on Bitcoin, I think Tio broke it down. It's like, between 50 and 90% of all transactions happening on Bitcoin right now are actually ordinals, right? And so to think that ordinals is somehow dead is ridiculous. You might as well say Bitcoin's dead, right? I mean, the transactions, over half on a daily basis, are still ordinals. So I don't think there's any debate around that. I mean, it's just it's just so interesting to see the narratives that take place. And I hate to see, because honestly, people filling the timeline trying to fight, FUD or whatever. It's like, what are you trying to fight? Like, we're here. Like, what we're doing is here. It's legitimate. I don't know what there's necessarily to fight. It's like people claiming ordinals are dead, or NFTs are dead, or crypto are dead. They're not here for the right reasons anyway. So, let them go. It's fine. I don't know. That's just my view.
Leo's tweet from August 20th says ordinals accounted for 53.9% of the activity on Bitcoin this week. Ordinals transactions is 1.9 million. Bitcoin transactions, 3.6 million. Wow. The only people saying ordinals are dead are the ones who feel threatened by them. Yep. This will be a debate that continually goes on and on for a long, long time. But in other news, I did see some gimmicks where some users found a wallet that had acquired about $3 billion worth of Bitcoin, and they were sending inscriptions to it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Saying that this whale is buying
this whale's buying my pudgy whales or something, whatever.
And I was like, man, I swear I've seen this tactic before. And I was like, oh wait, that was just 2 years ago during the whole NFT bull run, when people would send NFTs to like Gary Vee's wallet and be like, look, he's a Mooncat holder. And I'm like, you sent that to him.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you called that. You were like the first one to call that out, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's like I've seen this before, man. It's so cringe. I get it. Sometimes it may work, right? What's the likelihood that this person with 3 billion looks in and they're like, oh, there's inscriptions in here, and they get interested? It is possible, and that would be the greatest R&R ever, right? If that actually happened, you send this guy, you spent $3 on inscription, then he ends up spending millions on inscriptions, or at least that's the hope. Everyone was speculating who this person was, and for a while, everyone was saying, oh, it's BlackRock, right? Because they're coming in. Turns out it was actually Robinhood.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how they confirmed that, but there's this tweet from Crypto Rover. It says the secret wallet that bought $3 billion worth of Bitcoin last 3 months belongs to Robinhood. While you panicked, they bought.
They were buying the bottom. Now, when they're buying like that, I'm assuming what they're buying is so customers are buying Bitcoin on the platform, correct? And then they're actually going out into the market and actually buying the real Bitcoin. Right. So I'm assuming people on Robinhood, retail traders like you and I, are, buying Bitcoin, but obviously on the platform, you're not actually buying Bitcoin. You're just, logging a database entry, right, on Robinhood. But then Robinhood actually, for legal reasons, has to actually go out and buy the Bitcoin. And I'm assuming that's what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know this by now, that when you're buying on a centralized exchange, you're buying an IOU. It's not actually the right currency. Then Jesus.
Are you serious, Jake? Is this real? Do we have a technology that fixes this, Jake?
On-chain summer. That's what the bald guy over at Coinbase has been preaching for the last month, and that's kind of the whole motto at Base, which is on-chain summer, which is kind of funny because L2s aren't completely on chain, but we'll pretend. I'll digress from there. And in other news, Cointelegraph came out and said that recursive inscriptions, the Bitcoin supercomputer, and Bitcoin DeFi is coming soon because of recursive inscriptions. Quite interesting that I'm seeing Bitcoin DeFi, the words populate more and more. And there's more teams who are attempting to figure this out. So earlier this year, Ordinal's unique inscription on the smallest unit of Bitcoin called Satoshi emerged as a controversial new development. Dismissed by some as spam and embraced by others as a way to bring BRC20 tokens and NFTs to Bitcoin. The technology stimulated a flurry of developments, and it actually did. And so they come in here and talk about Ordinals taking the most demand. Of course, Danny's always has a pretty good insight. Bitcoin Ordinals is a big deal. I've been building on Bitcoin for over 10 years, and Ordinals is the most significant development in recent history. Recursive inscriptions. I actually had on recently, I had Sanj on my podcast, who's the creator of Ordinal Famojis, and they're creating a platform called Generate Ord, which is supposed to be a simple version of using recursive inscriptions for people like you and me who have no idea how to code, and we just need to drag and drop all this stuff. So I think that's going to be, pretty, it'll be very valuable for the community, because, when I watch Billy, create a 7 megabyte image through recursive inscription of 300, I tried to have him explain to me what he did, and I was like, I'm never going to figure this out.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, and I think I've been on Spaces talking with those guys and talking with Danny and like, he understands it and the ability to do it and all that sort of stuff. But you and I know it has to be one button easy for it really to take off, right? And I don't know how far we are away from that, but it seems like we're pretty far away from that right now. So the idea is there; it's being built now. But to get to that point where I, as an artist, or as somebody wants to do a project, or someone who just wants to do whatever, a DeFi project, or anything on Ordinals using inscriptions and recursive inscriptions, like it has to get simple, right? That's the way it feels right now. It just has a long way to go before we're there.
Yeah. Speaking of Bitcoin DeFi, I actually threw out a tweet yesterday that got some interesting kind of responses. I threw out, is the next Ordinals meta the TAP protocol, which is kind of a BRC20 extension by the track team. And man, you look under these comments. You look at these comments.
What do they say?
So Bugsy, I don't know if he's still in here. Yeah, said not at all. Yet another grift in the space. Businessman coming in saying it's an interesting experiment. Love the builders pushing the space forward. Archimedes, who's behind, or he's what the voice for the Boss Network and Oshi, says no, but it's good enough for grifters to begin grifting. I'm grifting, right? And then you go in and you see just this conversation of saying the Boss protocol is the biggest grift in the space, and people talking about how they've missed release dates. I think Shizzy was in here and said yes, it's the next trend. And so
so what is it exactly?
I've also tried to dive into the documents to kind of figure out what it is. And so the TAP protocol was built actually for a bitmap, and it was a way, from my understanding, and if there's anyone in here who has a better explanation of this, please come up here, because I will probably butcher this a little bit. It was originally built for bitmap, and it was a way to have tokens inside of your bitmap plots, I believe. But now people are doing stuff outside of this as well, and so you can have three characters or 5 characters to 24 characters, because BRC20 is 4 characters, and it's an extension. So it's very similar to BRC20. And some people, but I don't know specifically what under the hood makes it different. But for what I'm seeing, there's some sort of off-chain tracking to this as well, which is pissing some people off. And some people are claiming that OrdFi, which I believe is like the trendy token right now, is a scam for some reason. I don't completely know why. I saw that they also created a swap tool for these, and now there's like tons and tons of.
You're saying a lot of words, bro, but
yeah,
I don't know what the hell this is.
What is
it, bro? What is it? Give me a sentence.
from my understanding, it's Track's version of Track protocol, right? Which is the indexer, the indexing protocol by Benny from Rarity Garden, who we know because he just absolutely hates Emblem Vault. So we get a shit post from him every once in a while. Yeah, so it says the Track token from Track is the governance token of the TAP protocol. And keep in mind, BRC. So Track, the Track token is for Track, which is doing the indexing for Bitmap, and they're supposed to be doing indexing for whoever needs indexing. So they created the Track token, which has been probably one of the best performers actually in the BRC20 space. Which unironically, Oshi is probably the other best performer. Which those two are the ones that are butting heads, calling each other scams. And it says keep in mind that the BRC20 token TAP's not associated. And people are building on it, man. I don't know. It's something to watch. It's something to watch. I mean, I could pull up the docs here, and we could kind of go through it here in a second.
I think I might be with Bugs. Oh, was it Bugsy?
Bugsy?
I haven't heard. Is actually Bugsy's in the audience, man. Bugsy, come up and explain this for me, man. Tell me what the heck this is, bro. I want to invite you, or I can't invite him. Invite him up, Jake, so I can. I want to hear it from the from Bugsy's mouth. What the heck this thing is, man. I still don't. I don't even Bitmap. I understand. Okay, it's a map of it's a metaverse. Each block, it's a plot. Okay, that kind of makes some sense. But what is this? I don't know. I don't know.
So the basic idea, I would just say it's BRC20s for the Track protocol, and this is from my understanding. There's some additional functionality to it because they added some complexity because it's not just the simple like BRC20 where it's deployment, transfer. I believe they added some more kind of functions to the JSON for that. So I think it's something to watch. To be honest, whenever there's a lot of here, I forgot to even share this. So here's the TAP protocol.
You guys can, by the way, I pinned the top. You can watch if you're looking for the video. What we're talking about is right on screen. So Jake's scrolling through it right now.
I will explain this briefly and then we can move on kind of afterwards. But it says TAP is the extendable ORDFI enabling protocol that includes but is not limited to the TAP token standard. TAP works entirely without the use of L2 chains and other overly complex mechanics, but utilizes tapping, a simple mechanism to verify transactions within the protocol. The goal of TAP is not to replace or compete with BRC20, but instead embraces it and allows for new features that will be consistently added to the protocol by the community-driven governance. Okay. And then, so...
Got it. So it's an extension of BRC20s. Makes BRC20s bigger, broader, can do more with them. Got it.
Which I actually support, right? I always said that the extensions of BRC20 is better. I think competing with BRC20 as a standard is probably not going to work.
Yeah.
Unless there's a complete overhaul of the system. But an extension, I support it. I support people building. I don't know specifically what is going on under the hood there. Oh, but
if there were a way we could tie it to OnlyFans, that would be a game changer, bro.
Send it to Friend Tech. Somebody had built a token using the TAP protocol called ORDFI, and I'll try to find it in a second. But I believe this is where like a lot of the contention was coming from. Everyone was calling ORDFI a scam.
Yeah.
Because here, let me see. I think this guy, Layer 23. I guess he's like one of the whales in ordinal space, man. It's impossible to keep up with all this stuff. So there's ORD and then there's ORDFI. So ORD is the top token for BRC20. I guess they're trying to make ORDFI kind of competing with ORD in some sense. So ORDFI here, it launched today with Track, enabling peer-to-peer trading of TAP tokens. So it's just they created a swap tool, and I guess the token that's represented for that is called ORDFI. Hey, a lot of exchanges have their own tokens, if that's the case, right? There's a lot of protocol. Uniswap has its own token, in some sense. So this token. This is how
weren't all tokens.
What?
Weren't all BRC20s able to be traded already? Like,
so this is on the TAP protocol. So you could see, because OrdFi has 5 characters, right? The BRC20 standard, there's only 4 characteristics you can have. So this is 5. So they use tap. There's some sort of swap tool, and they added a token to it using this because they get additional functionality. What happens after that? I don't know, man. But
it just reminds me of what was it, 8-minute abs? You know, that joke from that movie. It's like, I created 3-minute abs. Why would anybody buy 8-minute abs when they could buy 3-minute abs? Whatever that was. It's like, because I mean, the joke was after the BRC 20s came out, like I did like, oh, let's make the BRC 722 or whatever, and like mine has only 1 digit. It's like, well, what are we doing, man? It's like,
yeah. So Sol, who's in the crowd, actually right after BRC 20 had come out, he put out a standard. It said BRC 21. I was like, here's your extension, which was pretty on point for what was going to happen in the coming months. So if you're in the BRC, if you're in ordinal space, it seems like the tap protocol is where it is the attention of 1,500 people who are active. So compete and shout over each other every day. All right. Emblem.
Call everything a scam, but the one. The one.
I'm going to give some Emblem updates. A lot of people have been asking a lot of questions. Yes, we're into week 6 of the migration. We originally had said that the migration was going to take 3 to 4 weeks. Turns out tech is fucking hard to build. Excuse me. But I want to note, this isn't just a simple process of taking assets and moving them into a different box. Yes, that's what we presented it as. But under the hood, there's a lot of things that are happening. And so while we've been going through this migration process, we've built a bulk minting tool and a bulk move tool, right? So why are these two things important? A bulk minting tool, let's say you created a rare Pepe card that has a 500 supply and you still hold 80% of them and you want to go distribute them. Going and creating a vault going and creating 100 individual vaults is going to take you literally an entire day. And I know that because I've spent an entire day vaulting 84 in one day. It took me like 6 or 7 hours. So I know how painful that is. Yeah. So with a bulk minting tool, you basically say, hey, I want to create 100 vaults. And within one transaction, you could create 100 vaults. Yes, you will have to pay the gas fees and all the stuff and the vaulting fees associated with it. But after you mint 100 vaults, right, then it'll also copy all of the addresses, or at least this is the expectation, so that you can then go put it into a multi-send in free wallet. And you could basically do this all in maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And, that'll save a lot of time. It also will onboard tons more supply, because I think that's the whole idea with, I use Rare Pepe because that's kind of like our largest collection. And I actually think it's now the second largest collection by market cap in all of the NFT space. Now that apes are down below or around 20 ETH, that would put them around like a $350 million market cap. I think Rare Pepe sits around $400 million market cap right now. So quite a large collection, right? And then we have fake rares and all these other ones. And so what's a move tool or bulk move tool? So the whole idea of Emblem, right, is to deploy on as many chains as possible. I'll use a handful of layer 2s in this example. So Emblem right now is deployed on Ethereum, BNB, and Polygon. Let's say, in the next 2 months, we deploy on Base, Optimism, and Arbitrum. Let's say you want to, and then we deploy Rare Pepe, curate a collection on all these. You could take your Rare Pepe and move it between all of these layer 2s. So if you want your Rare Pepe on Base or on Polygon or BNB, you just click this move tool and it moves it there. And I think that'll be very important because it'll probably encourage a lot of trading on L2s, because minting on Ethereum to create a vault the gas fee is quite expensive, right? It could be anywhere from $10 to $25 depending on the gas fees. So if you take that away and then you just start trading on L2s or minting on L2s, then you're basically just paying the vault fee of $20 or $10 depending on the discount that you have. So those two things we had to build out along the way, which is very important. We also moved our RPC provider from Infura to Alchemy. So we're now using Alchemy. Things are much faster in that way. And we've also, hold on. and we've also moved we moved some of our storage. And what I mean by this is the way that the images are stored. There wasn't a standardization, I should say, because the legacy contract was one of Shannon's first contracts, and over the years, there's been a lot of changes. As the legacy collection wasn't actually intended for NFTs, it was actually intended for DeFi. So there's been a lot of kind of hacking on the back end to kind of put it together, and so now we've been able to kind of standardize the entire back end into everything. And so now we sit here today. I'm sure there's a few other things that Shannon's had to do on the back end as well. It just seems like there's always something new. But we have successfully migrated a few test assets. The first one that we used is Rinkeby, which is the now retired test network of Ethereum. And it turns out actually there's I guess a bunch of nouns that exist on Rinkeby that still sell for multiple ETH. I don't know why, but that's one of the things. So turns out in a bunch of these legacy vaults, there's like a bunch of Rinkeby assets that, have found their way outside of the now closed Rinkeby network, but can still be traded. So we have successfully moved those. And I was told this morning that the mass migrations are actually going to begin today, tomorrow. Now that everything is completely done on the back end, at least that's what we hope. And that's what we expect. And so fake rares, Rare Pepes, Counterparty, and Bitcoin stamps are going to be the first collections that will be moved. And once they are migrated, they're immediately tradable because you have the vaults in your hands and you have the keys to them. So there's nothing we could do at that point in time. We have to still set up the back end. We still have to set up the pages when we migrate it, though. So that's you could be trading on kind of like a blank contract. So do that at your own risk. But they are safe, and we're going to be moving forward. Yeah, it's an exciting time. We're also working on a ton of other things on the back end that I can't share yet, but one of them I have shared before is the new Emblem Finance UI is getting a lot more traction, or it's getting built out, and it is going to vastly improve the experience, and it's going to be mobile friendly for the first time.
Oh my God, on my phone. Can't wait.
Emblem Vault on your phone, dude. First time in 3 years. It's crazy that we've got to about 50,000 ETH traded completely on desktop. That's it.
It literally is amazing, man. And I mean, we've talked about it internally, and we've talked about it at Spaces, obviously, and all this sort of stuff. But crypto being, I mean, this is how that most crypto is still taking place on computers, on desktops and laptops, and is insane because it's just not the way people interface with the internet anymore. Like they just don't. And so, yeah, I think the next wave, whatever the next wave may be, whatever bull run's incoming, is going to have to be on the phone. It just has to be.
Yep, and that's what we're optimizing for. So you'll be able, your vault management on Emblem.finance will all go through desktop and for mobile. Very exciting to release that. That'll come probably a few weeks after the migrations are complete. And then we have a few other mega mystery projects that'll hopefully come within a few months after that. Go ahead, Meeps. I see your hands up.
Hey. So yeah, I had I guess two questions. One, like, what is the difference between FriendTech and then let's say BitClout, for example, or Friends with Benefits? And secondly, what motivated or kind of drove your decision making when it came to going from Infura to Alchemy?
Sure.
Well, I could take the Friends with Benefits one.
Go ahead.
So the difference, I mean, Friends with Benefits, if y'all don't know, basically you're in like it's a community of kind of, you're joining a community just like you would with Bored Apes or whatever. So they basically have a gated Discord. They do a bunch of like in real life meetups and stuff. A lot of great people in that group. I'm actually in that group as well, although I don't really participate that much. But to get into that group, you have to buy the FWB token, like a certain number. I can't remember if it's 3,000 or whatever of this token. And that token trades on the free market. And like at one point during the bull run, it was like $5,000 to get into that community. And you actually have to apply. And I'll tell a little story here. Like a guy gifted me the FWB tokens. I wasn't going to join it, but he's like, I want you to join. He gifted me the tokens, and they have like an application, like, why are you going to be good for our community? What are you going to bring? And I literally just like filled it out in 3 seconds. I was like, just wrote answers, nothing interesting, whatever. And they denied me. They were like, we're not interested in having you in the community. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I didn't realize it was serious. And I actually then did like a selfie video and was like, hey, I didn't realize this was like legit. And, and then I gave the reason. Then I really answered the questions about like why I thought community was important and being around like-minded people and so on and so forth. And they wrote me back and they said, okay, you can come in. But it was like, it's one of those things, but the token itself is literally, you're just basically, by buying that token on the market, you're getting access to the community. So I think it's different than, friend tech in that way, right? Friend tech is, you're basically, each person has their own token. And so in theory, you're getting access to that one person rather than a large community. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and BitClout was pretty similar as well. The difference with BitClout, I think why it failed, was that you couldn't unlock your shares and like the value that your account had accrued. And so people were getting front run by it, and there was like some fallout on the back end. I didn't participate in it too much, but it is like an early primitive to front tech. That's why it gets that comparison. And why we moved to Alchemy, it's a better experience. They're a little bit faster. They're a little bit more nimble. Of course, Infura is the number one, or it is currently the number one RPC provider. But we are running into issues with them, even in kind of just simple communication, to where we try to reach out to them, whether we hit our API call limits or their systems had gone down. And Alchemy just provided a better opportunity for us. And Emblem's in a unique position to where we need data from multiple blockchains, like lots of blockchains, and also non-EVM blockchains. And Alchemy said that they would be interested and willing to provide different types of information that we need from different type of blockchains. More specifically, we call them, or they called it, I didn't even know, long tail assets, which I think is just like a fancy word for proof of work chains. Infura doesn't provide that, and Alchemy had told us they would be willing to assist building that out, so that when Emblem wants to deploy on Ordinals or Litecoin or Dogecoin or any of these, we have data and information that we can kind of pull from. So that was kind of the main decision behind it.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And then from Emblem, I guess I don't think there's much else to that. Just once we get past the migration, 35 collections. I think it's going to be a very, very big moment for all the counterparty community, but also any chain community that wants to be multi-chain and have these kind of like super collections and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's gonna be cool to see, how these kind of long tail communities, we'll call them, Doge Party assets, not many people hold them, right? And so they're always looking to kind of spread the word and get it out there. And I think this is a cool opportunity where, for example, you now have this community growing on Base, right? We could launch on Base, bring all these assets on Base, and would it be cool for the counterparty community or the Doge Party community to talk to that community on Base and introduce them to those assets? Like, heck yeah. So it's exciting.
I'm taking my Jolly Roger Doge Party asset and I'm moving it to Base. And then I'm going to go borrow it against I'm going to go sell it for some friend tech shares and create a swap, right? There's all kinds of different stuff you could do. Yep. And last point on Emblem, we had somebody come into our Discord yesterday, very frustrated. It said, guys, it's taking forever for the migration. You guys have killed whatever little hype was left in the historical NFT collection. No one's been able to buy anything for 2 months now. And so I said, well, first, we're on week 6, so we're not that completely there for 2 months. And then I showed him a chart, which I'll pull up here. And I said, like we're not purposely holding this back. I wish this was done, I would wish it was automatic. I wish
the same day we paused it. I mean, it was, come on, man.
I wish I could have clicked a button and it would have been over. But, there's a lot of things that had happened. But, I said, if there was ever a time to do this, right now is exactly that time. And, NFT statistics, Sam, you put out this chart. It said, so far this month, there have been just 70 NFT trades above 50 ETH, down from 3,805 in March. Literally just 5 months ago, there was, what is that? Like 50 times more 50 ETH trades.
Yep.
So this is the lowest number for this metric since June 2021, literally before the bull market even started.
Yep. So,
going through this time and having maintenance, you want to do this during the low periods. You don't want to do this when there's, 3,000 50 ETH trades happening. You want to do this when people are, taking a break.
It's funny. We killed the HNFT market. How ridiculous.
I guess that just shows you that how vital, or dependent it is on Emblem. That's maybe a little bit of a centralization kind of dependency. But I rebutted and said, this is also the reason why we left claiming open. If you want to go, you can remove your asset at any time and go trade on X-Chain if you want.
Yep.
Up to you. All right. So I did hear you, AKC. I do hear you. We do want this done. We are working on it, and we will get this done very soon. And if you guys,
we know the HNFT market isn't dead because Mooncats are popping.
Dude, Mooncats are going insane. So as if you don't know, my PFP is actually a Genesis Mooncat. I've had a lot of history with Mooncats, selling them at Sotheby's auction house in 2021. We had 7 Genesis sales in like a 24-hour period.
Bonkers.
Granted, one of those buyers, I think, purchased 5 of them, going crazy. But the floor for these things, I think, is now up to like 23, 24 ETH. And now the floor price is finally budged from that 0.2. And it's up to 0.27 ETH. Right. And that's good for Mooncats because it's been pegged at 0.2 for literally like 6 months. Like, no matter if it's bear or bull, these cats have been staying there. And so this number 84, I think, is this is the best purchase by far. So Multipod, this is a person who's been buying all these. This was actually owned by Ponderware. So this was actually, I think, Wander's cat. And I actually do think this is the first actual Genesis Mooncat that was created. So we got it for 30 ETH. So really good pickup for this person. So 24 ETH is the Genesis. And so Genesis Mooncats are consistently trading at about 100 times the floor price for Mooncats. So hopefully it just continually goes up from here. Very, very exciting times, to say the least. As we know, and I've pointed this out many times, whenever there is a historical NFT bull run, Mooncats and Hero cards are generally the first 2 to really start popping off. And then it generally trickles down to everything else.
Yep. Love the cats, baby.
On the counter side of that, though, chain left, and this is a never-ending narrative that I don't even participate in this anymore because it's beating a dead horse. It comes down to, I guess, your perspective of what on-chain art is. But I guess if there's anyone that's qualified to say it, I think Chain Left is, as somebody who's a big Mooncat holder, but also is building in the on-chain kind of idea. And so what the contention is that Mooncats are the first on-chain generative art project. And where is the contention here is like, what does on-chain mean? There's no doubt that it's generative art. CryptoPunks claim to be generative art as well, but there was no way to ever prove that there was an algorithm used, right? So they used off-chain generative art, which I don't think they're lying, but you never know, really. They did lie about the history of.
They did lie for 3 years, so
they lied for, so you never really know. So the contention is
true.
Mooncats are the first on-chain generative art, and Mooncats coming only 2 months after CryptoPunks. The claim is that autoglyphs are the first on-chain generative art, and what's I guess what the whole point is with on-chain art is you're supposed to be able to reconstruct the image using all of the data that is minted on the blockchain itself. Turns out autoglyphs actually isn't completely on chain. It's like 95% on chain. But what Mooncats did is, I believe they put a hash of the algo on chain, but the actual algo though was stored, I think, on IPFS or somewhere else. So it's like you can audit the algo that they used, but the algorithm wasn't stored on chain. It was stored somewhere else. But a hash is basically like a pointer to saying, hey, this is the algo that we used. So it's like, it was definitely more on chain than what CryptoPunks were, but it's not on chain to today's standards. And then in January 14, 2022, Pawnware actually put them completely on chain, which, if I remember correctly, cost 7 ETH to do this. And they did it through 5 different contracts. So you can completely reconstruct Mooncats through. Oh, and they even tagged me in this as well, where I dove into, I forgot I even did a video on that. It's funny how many, I have like 25 Mooncat videos on my YouTube channel. I forget that I even did that at times.
That's like 4 months of your life, bro. Come on.
Dude, dude, that was a never ending. That was kind of my beginnings, right? Started as a Mooncat moderator. Now we're here. If you ever want to be an intern in the space and start, be a community moderator or manager for a project, and you'll really learn how the internal workings of these projects work. But Adam, what do you think? I know we've been in this space for the historical space since literally its inception, and Mooncats are always considered the first on-chain generative art. And this debate will continue on, I think, probably forever. Yeah. What's your take on it?
It's unsolvable because there is no definitive definition of what is on-chain or what is on-chain. I mean, it's a non-ending question, and we'll debate this literally for the next 50 decades, right? It's like, it's not answerable, impossible to answer. So that's it. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Mooncats hold their place. It just had the rediscovery of Mooncats, and we've talked about this a bunch. The rediscovery itself is the thing that makes Mooncats so special. And so many people have that emotional connection with that it's basically unbreakable at this point. Do I ever think they'll really move off of that point too? Probably not. And I hold a bunch of Mooncats, like a bunch. I probably have like 10 Mooncats. So, do I want them to go to the moon? Of course, but they have a huge supply. It is what it is, man. But were those guys at Ponderware just like super early and innovative? Like, it's incredible, man. Those guys are incredible. They just aren't very good marketers. And it's just one of those things. It's like, you realize that Matt and John are fantastic marketers, and we can call it lying with what they did with CryptoPunks for literally years, saying they were the first NFT, like literally years. But the reality is that they won that game, and they convinced enough people who needed to be convinced that CryptoPunks were that. And here we are, right? CryptoPunks are everything in the NFT space, right? They convinced people that autoglyphs were this first of something interesting. And was it? Kind of was. But at the end of the day, they won because they were the better marketers. And it's hard to take because we want the truth. And what is the truth? But if I've learned anything in the historical NFT space, is that the truth is not always easy to define. And there are gray areas all over the place, right? And, good marketing combined with being early, which certainly, Lover Labs was, they're the big winners, and Mooncats kind of aren't. But in the historic NFT communities, we love our Mooncats.
And we have a long time horizon historical space, right? I mean, right. If Mooncats just increase 100% in price every year, I think that is very satisfactory to the collectors who are just tending to hold these things. Like Mr. Moo, which I own, I paid probably way too much money for. My thesis is that Mooncats are going to be this iconic collection 10 years from now, and unless somebody wants to pay me, 1,000 ETH for it right now, there's no way in hell I'm selling that. It's just unless I'm going broke or something like that. Which,
well, I mean, if you think about just like the number of people who are psyched about Mooncats. It's got a big wave behind it, right? There are literally, you know, I don't know anybody in the HNFT space who doesn't own some Mooncats, right? So it's like there's this whole body of people who are, you know, behind Mooncats, and we'll talk about it. Obviously, I mean, Mooncats is like, it was the talk of conversation in the HNFT space on Twitter this week, right? And I think that small but powerful kind of group of people will, you know, bring Mooncats into a wider kind of understanding, you know, during the next bull run and stuff. So Mooncats are really well positioned for sure.
Yeah. I love to see people like Daniel Bernstein, who, you know, we've had some differing opinions, come out and love Mooncats for the naming features, which is something that I had been discussing since the beginning. So vindication. Meeps, what's on your mind?
Yo, just there's so many different things that you can find that have been put on chain over the years, you know, before, like, let's say it was a thing or whatever. I guess just like in my, you know, investigation or whatever, I found a Telegram bot that has been tracking all of the transaction post to Ethereum mainnet. So there's been all sorts of stuff, like people have put pictures and little notes and all sorts of things. And then when its subscriptions caught on, you know, obviously the bot kind of just blew up and went out of control. But you can like go back historically on this thing and just see all sorts of stuff that, you know, people have put on there, you know, on purpose. And even on the Bitcoin side, there's a security researcher who had passed away, I believe, in 2019 or 2018. His name is Dan Kaminsky. But he went and basically back in, I think, 2011, it took a Bitcoin and then put a ASCII art image of a fellow researcher, you know, who had passed away as well, you know, or, you know, back then at that time. And so it was just an interesting sort of commemorative thing to do. But nonetheless, it's like, it would be amazing to own those sort of things that are like literally parts of history that are, you know, undeniable or immutable, as it were. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that one you're talking about isn't ownable. But yeah, know what you're talking about, and totally. Obviously, that early ETHscription one of the cat sitting on a log or whatever, the world will be, what's it? ETHscribed, not ETHscribed or something like that.
Yeah, it's there's something there.
Yeah, but you know,
screen.
that would certainly be a cool one to own. But you know, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're first and there aren't people who are interested enough and willing to talk about it enough to make it interesting, from a collectability standpoint, funny enough, that thing can hold almost no value or no value. The ability to talk about it and get people excited about it and get people to buy into it, we've seen it. It's so important. And the guys for CryptoPunks and Autoglyphs, like Matt and John, they were like amazing at it. And, you know, and they've built what they built based on that ability to convince people that what they were doing was cool. And here we are, you know. So I love finding those old things, but if there aren't enough people who are psyched about it and find it also interesting, collectors kind of just aren't, they don't care. It's funny how humans work.
Side note about e-scriptions, one of my buddies, our buddy Shardul, actually just created a e-scription aggregator, but also for polyscriptions and for BNB scriptions as well. So it's called evm.inc, INK. And you can see right here, see BNB, Polygon, BNB. So the e-scription wave of storing information into the call data set of a proof of stake chain has some traction. Granted, there's not much volume here, but if that's something that interests you, I highly recommend checking that out.
Very cool.
evm.inc. And
Thank you.
yeah, and for final conversation, the royalty discussion is back again. I don't think it's ever going to go away. We saw recently, which I found quite interesting, and Adam, you and I debated this a few times. First was that super rare is down.
Bad.
Horrific. Dude, I was crazy to see this. On August 22nd, super rare had done 0.83 ETH in sales for a 24-hour period. It's one of the first. One of the first times I've ever seen less than 1 ETH of total sales in a day on a platform. That was from NFT statistics. What do you think is causing this, man? Do you think it's because of their 10% royalty fee that no one wants? Is super rare just out of touch with where the reality of NFT art is? What happened there?
Well, I don't think it's the royalty. I think it's just the market, man. It's just we are in the midst of a market that is what it is. Like, look, if there are no buyers, there are no buyers. And it doesn't matter, at this point, it doesn't matter what they do. They could drop their royalties to zero. What difference would that make for them? Probably almost nothing. Simply because there aren't buyers and there are tons of sellers, but there are no buyers. And that's what you get when you have a very, very small group of people in our space, and the money's all dried up and people are terrified. We're in the midst of this massive bear market. Everybody's hoarding their ETH. Nobody's buying NFTs right now. So it is what it is, man. And I mean, look, I think it was maybe Beanie put it out. He's like, true bottom's going to be when OpenSea closes its doors. Like, and that's a real possibility. It's a real possibility. And I mean, think about it. What's OpenSea's revenue generation source right now? Like, they don't have one. Like,
it's their marketplace fee.
I mean, but I mean, I would be interested to know what their runway is when the volume has dried up like horrifically, right? And I mean, it is what it is. Like, we knew the bear was coming, and here we are. And where it goes from here, we'll have to see. I mean, you and I both believe in royalties to some degree. We believe marketplace fees probably are going to zero or near zero. How that model plays out, Lord, who knows, man? Yeah, you've got Yuga Labs up right now that it looks like they may, they're going to be out of OpenSea come whenever it is February when OpenSea takes away creator royalties completely. So what does Yuga do? Does Yuga start up its own marketplace? Do they partner with a marketplace? Who knows, man? It's going to be, it seems like we're fighting for almost nothing at this point. There's these battles taking place for very little, and which to me screams opportunity. Like there's something here where a new leader can emerge. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So will we see Yuga Marketplace? Probably. But then it becomes this debate that, right, this is the circular debate that never ends is, okay, if you enforce royalties, unless they're adding like the new contract, the ERC 721C, which Gabe created, which doesn't really have that much use. You have to go to this closed garden situation. Then if it's a closed garden, right, then it's not like a barrier asset. It's not decentralized. Now you're just basically recreating Web 2.
Right.
In essence, right? It's the same thing all over again. So how they will construct that, I think it just comes down to incentives. If you're going to do if it's going to be a tipping model, unfortunately, but this is kind of the state. It's on the creator to offer incentives. If you tip, right, then maybe you get airdrops or you're eligible for airdrops or whatever considering or whatever is in consideration for the next steps of the project. That's where it's going. I think you are right. Royalties are going to zero. I have a hard time finding any sort of improvement in that space. Maybe the art NFT community somehow figures out a way to segment themselves, but still keep some sort of decentralization. But this is kind of the situation of Super Rare. Super Rare is a closed garden. Everything minted is on one contract. Yes, you could go trade your Super Rare stuff on other marketplaces, but it's all on one contract. It's not owned by the creators. It's owned by Super Rare itself. And they have less than 1 ETH in trading volume, right? Whether that's a direct correlation, right, or confluence, to be determined. But what's next then, right? Royalties go to 0. So now you have a marketplace fee of 2.5% on OpenSea. You have a 0% marketplace fee, but tokenomics on Blur. And LooksRare has, I think, a 2% stake revenue share. So what happens then, right? So these marketplaces then have to now compete on the marketplace fee level, which then is also probably going to go to near 0 as well, right? Race to the bottom.
Yep.
I think tokenomics is really kind of what's going to help some of these platforms really set themselves up. Maybe OpenSea finally drops the token because their backs are against the wall.
Oh God.
Maybe that's what happens. Maybe they kiss their IPO goodbye and drop a token and really figure it out. But on the
can you imagine if they had dropped a token in, September of 21? Good Lord. I mean, they could have crushed their competition, like literally just taken the whole market if they wanted to.
They could probably vindicate themselves with some sort of airdrop token, and people would probably come back to it. That's probably their last move. I know they do want to go public, and public companies, you're not supposed to have a token, or at least that's the regulatory climate. So
they got to feel like there's no way that's going to happen now. I mean, just that is 0, right? I don't know. From a perspective, it just seems like they've dropped the ball so many times. They had such a tremendous lead. It's really kind of sad because I know that guys are good guys who are running that company, but I don't know if they got kind of hoodwinked by the investors or pressured. You know how that goes with VCs and stuff. To just take kind of this safe middle road and not be leaders. But boy, it sure feels like they fumbled their bags. It's funny. I was thinking of Rarible. I think I sent you that link of the Rarible who's going to be honoring royalties. But it's interesting, like Rarible, they had the Rari token. I don't know if you remember that in early
2020 is when they dropped it.
Yeah, dropped it. And basically in, May, June of 21, friends of mine were like, bro, you got to get on this. And I was like, what do you mean? And I had friends who were literally just trading NFTs back and forth to themselves to earn this Rari token, and I knew guys who were making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a week, just trading their NFTs back and forth to themselves and
Robin Maxis.
Yeah, it's like it was the ultimate like wash trading scam, and it's like, I mean, not what scam. I don't even know if scam's the right word, but just like, I mean, it's just like that model was then transferred to Blur, and and here we are all this time later, and it feels like OpenSea, if they had said, look, we're gonna expose this wash trading, we're gonna do it legit, and we're gonna have a token, and this is gonna be like an airdrop token, it just feels like they could have just crushed everybody with kind of transparency and being a real marketplace. And instead it's like they've allowed Blur to lead them down this path of like, now they're nothing, and it's kind of sad. I'm bummed about it, honestly.
Yeah, okay, here. So I've pulled this up for those that can't see. So Rarible, they came out, they said, we support royalties. We always have, we always will. By September 30th, so a little over a month from now, Rarible.com will no longer aggregate orders from OpenSea, LooksRare, or X2Y2. We stand in solidarity with creators and artists. That's why we will no longer support marketplaces that neglect royalties. Rarible is moving to royalties only. I don't know if they look and saw the volume on Super Rare, but not looking good. Not looking good. But I mean, if they can, this kind of move, it's a social signal. So they're gonna have to really, get the creators behind them to support this. You're really going to exile all the traders away, and unless there's some sort of incentive that they plan on coming out with. But right, you're just gonna. Go ahead.
I think, Jake, I agree with your point. I think they're going to have to come up with some sort of primary mechanism or, some sort of proprietary liquidity, right? Mechanisms, which is, curated drops, whatever the hell it is. They're going to have to come up with it because I think that the market, especially right now, is not large enough to support, unfortunately, I think what they're going to try and target. And I think that's honestly, it's really unfortunate. I think for a number of reasons, like for these companies that are now forced into this position to make this decision, and then of course, second is for creators, right? Of like, this is maybe somewhat of why they signed up to do art in Web3 or in crypto in the first place. Is like, hey, I can earn some royalties here. I don't know how long it's going to last, but at least, over the next couple of years, maybe. And I think that's been sort of stripped on, unfortunately, many chains. And I think a little bit more unfortunate too, at least on the Bitcoin side, that we've started from zero royalties. I know that there's Gamma that offers royalties, but I know the volumes over there are not necessarily the highest. I think that they have a great platform though. I don't know. It's really unfortunate. I think, yeah.
Yeah. NFT started on, or I guess the crypto collectible started on Counterparty in 2014 with no royalties. The Pepe community embraced no royalties, and Bitcoin has always embraced, decentralization and freedom. So now that Ordinals is moved, there are no royalty fees, but there are marketplace fees, right, that exist. So maybe that becomes race to the bottom. Yeah, Gamma's had some trouble kind of differentiating themselves from the rest of the other marketplaces where Unisat dominates BRC20s. You have Magic Eden coming in now and dominating kind of the PFP and kind of NFT-like stuff. It looks like Ordinal's wallet's trying to move into gaming, which is still quite immature from the Ordinal perspective. And Gamma might be just taking, this wearable route. I mean, the chart that we showed earlier, they had 9 active buyers on August 20th. So they need to do something to, differentiate themselves from it. They made the move of, going Ordinal focused when they were the Stacks NFT marketplace. Maybe that backfired a little bit, but, artists do deserve royalties. I would say more so. There might even need to be some sort of, royalty standardization model where they're saying, hey, artists, you can get 5%, no matter what artist it is, you're getting 5% royalties. If you run a PFP project, or if you're running something that has a large amount of supply, your royalties 1 or 2%, and that's kind of moving forward. But that takes a lot of, social agreements and alliances for that to really happen, which we've shown. And even OpenSea said the reason why they're dropping their operator filter is because the other marketplaces haven't participated in what they had set out. And even more so, Blur went and built on Seaport that circumvented OpenSea's operation filter. So they're really using OpenSea's own product to basically bypass the royalty filter itself. So it's a race to zero. And I think my personal opinion is I think the tokenomics of these marketplaces is what's going to separate themselves. There's really no other option. Tokenomics kind of fell out. It kind of fell out of its falling, right? When the market's going up, you don't want to have to play. You just want it very simple. But now you got to add some sort of incentives. And you think about it, back in 2020, Wearable was the first NFT marketplace to launch a token associated with an NFT marketplace. And they had a lot of success initially. I mean, granted, there was wash trading and stuff, but had success, right? So I think we're going to have to see some unique innovations. Looks Rare. I was on their platform the other day. Their token had been up. I'm still bag holding all the way down to zero from that.
I staked mine. I don't know the reward I got that first day or whatever. And I was like, look, I'm just going to stake it for a decade, see what happens. So are you telling me my bag is at zero now?
It's up. I mean, it's up like compared to ETH, it's up like 20%. And I went to look and see what the move was. And they're basically turning Looks Rare into a casino. They're kind of like, I don't know if you follow like Rollbit and stake.com. It looks like they're trying to move to that kind of model. It's what we talked about. It's literally, one of it's just a straight gamble. It's just, hey, throw your ETH into a pot and we're going to pick somebody to win this.
Nice.
A raffle. And then there's another one that they have prizes where it's like a Bored Ape and like a bunch of NFTs and some sort of like random generative mint. So it looks like they're kind of going that direction. And I mean, based off the token price, it looks like a lot of people are interested in that. So you're going to start seeing this differentiation and segmentation between these marketplaces to figure out what's the right model. But as we know, gambling is always the utility in this space. It's always And whenever you're in doubt, just pivot to gambling.
Pivot to gambling. It's, you know, it's interesting because there is this like, and we obviously, the space has not figured this out, right? Because NFTs are a bearer asset. I own it. I should be able to do whatever I want with it, right? That includes selling it. Why should I have to pay a fee to sell this if I want to, right? So, you know, we're figuring this stuff out. I mean, obviously, there's no concise way that you know, as a group of people, we've said yes, this is the way. And we've had, what, 5 different significant experiments in the last 2 years. And I mean, are any of them not broken? I think all of them are broken, right? Maybe there is no way. Maybe marketplaces can't really exist, you know, or they can, but they have to be completely open and free. And it's just a discovery mechanism. The community one, I don't know, man. I don't think
we'll go back. I don't know if everyone remembers. If you go to my website, I actually wrote the history of NFT marketplaces. I posted that, I think, around like March this year.
Putting that back up top, yeah, man.
Yeah, and if you look through the beginning of NFT marketplaces, it started out with Ascribe, which was just like an attempt to create NFTs to authenticate on Bitcoin. And then it became community-owned marketplaces. Spells of Genesis had one. Rare Pepe had Rare Pepe Wallet. And then, then it was like the CryptoPunks marketplace, Mooncats, and Dada. And then OpenSea came in 2017 and said, hey, I'm just going to bundle all these up together and try to help with the discovery process, which worked, right? They were valued at $12 billion at the peak of the bull market.
Whoa.
But what ultimately happens in tech, whenever there's a disruptor, 2 things happen. They're either bundling a bunch of things together or they're unbundling a product because the communities become too large for this like Walmart-like entity to support all of the nuances and requests for these certain communities. And feels like the unbundling is happening again. But now you have literally 10 years of NFT technology or innovation to where now these NFT community-owned marketplaces aren't just going to be this simple buy and sell. They're going to add all of their native features and unique aspects to it to encourage people. But again, it's going to have to come down to incentives. You pay the marketplace fee, you get whatever access and rewards and things like that, because that's what PFPs are right now. They're just social clubs and access and memberships more.
So you're thinking we go back to a model, you know, CryptoPunk style model where I'm buying it on the CryptoPunks marketplace. And therefore, if I buy it there, I get extra rewards because I made it maybe have paid, although CryptoPunks had no fee, right? But maybe they do add a small fee, and that small fee gets you into the secret room in the back, or, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. I put this tweet out, and I was like, traders are going to trade, collectors are going to collect, you know, creators are going to create. And I think you have to respect that. You're not going to pull a trader out of his perspective. If this person is here to purely make profit, there's no convincing them otherwise. You're not going to get them to pay royalties. And so what you should be doing is you should be focusing on your community that wants to, right? The community is diverse. If you have collectors who want to collect and participate in the project because they like you, they like the art, whatever, focus on that group of people and figure out how to incentivize them. Yep. And let the traders go trade. Let them be the liquidity people that figure out the valuations, and let the other people kind of reap the rewards. Go ahead, Becca.
Yeah, to me, I guess this conversation as well almost feels like we're talking about, you know, Walmart versus Shopify, right? Or like Amazon versus Shopify, right? Like you can have your own Shopify store, drive sales, of course, to that store, and then try and provide unique access or benefits to the people that, of course, bought on your store, because you can control the outcome. You can control what they're seeing, instead of, you know, on Walmart, on Amazon, you got 100 different sort of products, you know, 100 different PFPs that are running around. And so you can provide unique benefits to the people that just purchased, you know, an NFT. Maybe they get 10% off the next one they sort of purchase, something like that. I don't know what, of course, you guys is going to do. I know that they're just sort of teasing doing something, but I do think that this is an interesting route. I know I have a couple friends that have been trying to build, you know, incentivized AMMs for specific collections, right? To push these different collections into their own AMM that, you know, uniquely incentivizes not only the trading, but also the collection because of the fees they could potentially earn from providing or sort of being a part of the pools. I don't know. I think that there's a number of different ways that this is probably going to go, and I think that over these next couple of years, you're going to see these larger projects test out marketplaces. But I don't think that this is like the first time, right? I think that like you look at like Solana, and there was a couple projects that have done their own, and probably even on ETH that I don't know of, and they weren't really too successful, right? Like they didn't generate that much in fees. It didn't necessarily make any sense to have their own marketplace. Like it probably costed them more than it sort of made. And ultimately, people just wanted to stay on the sort of centralized place where the majority of liquidity and eyeballs were. So I'm really curious to see what ultimately happens here, and how maybe Yuga does it differently. And I'm sure if Yuga or someone else comes up with a model, everyone else is just going to copy that. I'm sure there'll be some sort of like Shopify kit for you to do that with your own collection and figure out incentives there, and then it's going to be a whole other race. And then maybe it's like not even a race at that point of like who has the best PFP. It's like who's offering the best incentives for your PFP, even if it looks horrible. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting race.
Yeah, actually, so Rarible actually has something similar where you can build your own community marketplace through Rarible. So that's probably why they're doubling down on the royalties. They have one for like MFers and V1 punks and a bunch of other people. So, maybe Yuga does that, or you create your own individual store, like you said. Maybe every Bored Ape person gets to spin up their own marketplace, and then they can basically be the peddlers of the NFTs themselves. Individual marketplace hosted, right? Kind of like an OfferUp page, but for all your Bored Apes, and they could call it, I don't know, fucking board monkeys yard sale or something like that. They could sell their own NFTs through their individual marketplace. Who really knows? It's going to be exciting. We're going to end it here, though. We've been going at it for a little while. Very fun conversation. I did hit up Alex, actually, who's the co-founder of Rarible, to try to come on the show for Tuesday. Hasn't responded yet, but would love to get him on the show.
Totally.
We could talk about. I've had Rarible peeps on once, but on Spaces would be good. So hopefully he'll reply, or Alex or Rarible people, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, man.
Hit me up, fan. Adam, any closing words?
We don't know anything. All you got to keep doing is trying, man. Like literally, that's what it is, and that's it. Really is the amazing thing about the crypto and NFT space is that all these experiments can take place in this free market, and they win for a while, and then they get destroyed, and then something new comes along, and then that gets destroyed, and we learn and get better all the time. And it's scary and terrifying because stuff is getting destroyed all over the place. But at the end of the day, we build better stuff because we're building all this stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Big God, Dogfather, everyone who's down there, Soul, Ethord, everybody, HNFT, Pepe, you guys are awesome. We appreciate you. And we'll see you Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.